Listen, let's jump into the hashtag Ask Me Anything because the news around this is very noteworthy because it happened when we were asleep on the East Coast with everything going on with the Raiders. They fired Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
They fired their GM, Dave Ziegler. They also fired their offensive coordinator, Mick Lombardi.
Right.
So Antonio Pierce, former New York Giants legend, he's going to be the interim head coach. There's just so much going on with this entire situation. So before we even dive fully into it, what was just your instant reaction? Like, is this shocking to you that it happened now? Because this is a little bit of an odd time of the season for this.
It is. I think Josh McDaniels is in trouble regardless. I mean, there was definitely some skeptical end-of-the-game decisions, I think, to talk about. You take over a team that went to the playoffs, and you go 6-11, and then you start out the next year maybe looking worse, right? Nothing to really hang your hat on. The one thing I brought up on Tuesday on Pro Football Talk with Florio is they're kind of in no man's land.
That's
right?
the problem.
That's the problem with the organization. It's like, what were they going to do again this year? Go 6-11 and maybe not be able to get a quarterback again to change their organization or flip it over or get it some new energy in there. I do think last year that they thought, yes, we signed Jimmy Garoppolo, we're still going to get a quarterback in the top 10. They obviously didn't like Will Levis. The three that they probably did like obviously went, and they kind of got stuck in a no man's land there as far as that. So where is the future? What's there to look at? And then also when you look at their roster, like, okay, Max Crosby, Colton Miller.
Sure.
The
left tackle.
Devontae Adams. And after you get through those three names right there, you start to go, well, who else is a difference maker or an elite football player or somebody that's a game changer? There's nobody else. And, I think it's a very middle-class heavy roster. So it was kind of like, where are they going with this? I did not expect them to get fired. I had a little birdie text me about 8:30 last night telling me they thought Josh was in trouble. Now, I didn't think that meant like in the next 24 hours. I thought maybe like they lose another game next week or in 2 more games, he's in trouble. And then I woke up to the news, right? So that's where I am surprised. And I guess I'm surprised too because Mark Davis, has kind of been known to not want to give money to people who maybe don't work for his team anymore. And between Gruden and this now, and I don't know what he's paying Gruden. He's going to be paying some people there. I think it just tells you the state of the NFL, though. It's still chump change, this money, even for one of the poorer owners in Mark Davis, that he's like, the hell with it. You got 4 years left on your contract. I'm still going to fire you and we'll pay you and we'll figure it out.
So this from Albert Breer kind of has to do with that. He said Raiders owner Mark Davis' recent post-game meetings with Josh McDaniels were seen by staff as a sign of trouble.
Yep.
One particularly aggressive one happened after the win over the Packers. Davis wasn't happy and let the head coach know it.
Yeah.
This is an owner that's notoriously pretty involved, a team that ownership is always involved.
Right.
And we had heard everything, Chris, about the rumors, that they didn't have a lot of cash, where firing McDaniels last year wasn't a possibility.
It's always been a little bit of a problem there.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, some of the players you said, Colton Miller and Max Crosby, this regime didn't draft or acquire those players.
Right.
So I think, to me, it all goes back to your original point, is that they don't have a quarterback that they were saying, this is going to be the guy, and I am going to develop this guy. And
right.
Jimmy Garoppolo is king bridge quarterback right now. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I know he gets crushed by everyone,
but
Jimmy can be your bridge quarterback while you're waiting for that guy on the roster to eventually play. I'll say this. Do you think it goes back to maybe they should have been more aggressive in this draft? Because everybody, if I know it, everyone knows it. At 7, there wasn't going to be one of those top 3 guys there.
We knew 3 weeks out from the draft.
It wasn't happening.
Like, everybody was kind of saying, no, these 3 guys
are
all going in the top 5 here, right? I think Stroud, maybe there was a little doubt there because of the testing, and there was some people that were concerned in the NFL with that, and maybe that's who they were waiting for. There's a part of me that thinks, were they the team that released the information on Stroud, hoping he would fall?
Maybe.
I really have. We've had that conversation on Pro Football Talk too. But yeah, you're an offensive coach. You're an offensive head coach. Your offense last year did some really good things. You abandoned your quarterback and Derek Carr, who didn't play good last year, and he said that himself too. And he blew a lot of late game opportunities where you're going, man, we're paying you like a franchise quarterback and you didn't come through, right? They had Devontae Adams, the number 1 receiver in football last year statistically, and the number 1 running game in football statistically in Josh Jacobs, right? Still didn't translate into a lot of wins. So I think he got like, okay, hey, you didn't like the quarterback. They're still building something here. But Josh Jacobs, of course, has not been the same this year. Their O-line's not been the same. Jacobs just getting into shape, right? And then the offense has not looked good. And I think with that and, some of the in end game decision making as far as, managing situations, and then add on to, not looking good as a total football team, and then looking down the future and going, wait, I don't see a shiny light or anything that I could go, ooh, well, we got this going, so I think we could turn it around. And I think that's where Mark Davis just said, the hell with it, I'm pulling the plug, and we'll move on from there.
It feels like the biggest selling point to keeping McDaniels going into this year was how Mac Jones looked when McDaniels left, right? Where you can argue and say, well, I mean, obviously knows how to coach offense. We saw some of it with his first year with the Raiders. But like you said, this offense hasn't been good this year for a variety of reasons. And it kind of all came to a pinnacle, obviously, in the primetime game, where the misses of Devontae Adams over his head, and just the frustration of the team and everything like that. So our first one here is from Isaac. He says, Jim Harbaugh to the Raiders. Harbaugh started his coaching career with Al Davis. He was suspended at Michigan already this year. He might be suspended again with the sign-stealing scandal. Also, Mark Davis loves splashy moves with hiring coaches. There was a report last week that the NFL might impose a suspension on Jim Harbaugh if he tries to return.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I understand that name being thrown out there. I think that's a possibility. I do think, I think Jim Harbaugh's in trouble in Michigan as far as college football and what's going on with this investigation about, sign stealing and all of that. I can see, Mark Davis being interested in a Jim Harbaugh. I think the real question, though, is Jim Harbaugh going to be interested in the Raiders?
Who would be right now?
Right now. There's a lot, like we just talked about. It's a roster that you're going to look at and go, like we said, it's limited as far as the talent, what you can do. You got to be, I think, pretty realistic and think, hey, it's going to take a little while to turn this over. Jim Harbaugh was trying to get the Chargers job this offseason. That was him and Sean Payton. They can say what they want, but anybody in the know in the NFL, and why did they want that? Because he saw talent, he saw a quarterback, he knew it was a quicker fix than maybe a situation like this. So, I understand that connection there. My thing would be, does Harbaugh end up having any other options when it's all said and done? And if any of those are prettier with a franchise quarterback or high draft picks that you're looking at, whatever it may be. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
All right, I was just laughing at the graphic we showed. If there'll be a trivia question one day of like the 13-year span where
the Raiders,
where Rick Bisaccia
it is amazing,
is the winningest coach alongside Jack Del Rio.
I know you're a little younger than I am, right? But like when I was growing up, and I know you know this, but I mean it's still shocking. The Raiders were arguably the greatest, most winning sports franchise in our country.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was a time there in the mid-'90s where their winning percentage was better than any other team in any sport, right? So it's just amazing how they've fallen off to this degree for this period of time where, great franchise, storied in the NFL, all the great players and all that, they have not been able to flip it around. And, I'll give Mark Davis credit in the fact that not doubling down. If he felt like it was time to go, let's make a move and let's be aggressive. And we've seen in the NFL, you can flip over a roster in 2 years and get back to being a really competitive, dangerous football team. So we'll see if they can make that happen out there.
And now they start the process early where they're going to be, everybody knows that job is open. They'll start openly vetting candidates.
That's right. Most likely, they're not going to win a lot of football games going forward when you fire the offensive coordinator and the head coach. That means that, it's a soft tank almost within that firing, right? To where, I don't expect them to win too many more games, and that therefore they'll have a pretty high draft pick. Yo, what up, homies? Thanks for watching. Remember, subscribe to Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Right now, we got Sunday Pod, right? So you can have it Monday morning. We recap all the action. Wednesday, it's the What the Happened podcast. We're going to get deep in the weeds on the key matchups of the week. And then Thursday, I'm picking games with that jerk Florio. So you know where to find us, homies. Keep watching. Peace out. We'll see you.